The scene that met us was surreal. The destruction was incredible. Semi-trucks were overturned, debris, power poles blocked the road. Cars were crumpled like pieces of paper, houses were decimated, and there was a smell that no one among us will ever forget. It was the smell of gasoline, propane, natural gas, wet insulation, and wet drywall. There was, of course, no electricity, and we heard screams for help emanating from the darkness. We had seen destruction like this when we were in Moore, Oklahoma, 2 weeks after the Moore tornado in 1999. However, there's a world of difference between 2 weeks ago and 15 minutes ago. We were stunned, speechless. People started to emerge from the darkness, bleeding, bruised, and half-clothed. The sounds of wounded and dying livestock drifted in from the night from the fields. There was darkness, strong winds, and the growing knowledge that this town had about 1,600 people unaccounted for. The thought in each of our minds was, there will be deaths here. The team was immediately put into service by Incident Command. With their agreement, we decided to split the team, half going to assist with search and rescue, and the other half setting up triage for the wounded in the center of town. Those first few moments after the tornado struck were mind-altering. People were wandering into the triage area, bruised and bleeding and in a state of shock, walking through broken glass and debris barefoot, some clothed in only tablecloths, garbage bags, or whatever else they could salvage. Every one of these people needed attention of some sort, but in triage you cannot treat the mind and soul. Your job is to make sure that those who need immediate medical attention get immediate medical attention. But it's hard, very hard. You want to hold these people and tell them it's going to be okay. You want to comfort them, but that's not what the job calls for. Most of the injuries that emerged from the rubble were lacerations, bruises, embedded glass, and trauma resulting from collapsed buildings. We met the people coming out by trying to clear safe passage for them. This required breaking many of the rules of personal safety, but the need was so great. We ripped through rubble with reckless abandon, went over and under power lines that could have become active with a kick from someone's generator or a lightning strike. We waded through deep puddles we fervently hoped contained only water. It wasn't bravery. It was a perfectly natural response to a perfectly horrific situation. These people had been through enough. We did what we could to make the last steps to safety as secure as we possibly could. Every member of our team worked tirelessly into the night, each one of us evolving into an outlet for our own individual skills. As mentioned, some of us were involved in search and rescue. Some of us worked triage, but others worked with communications, monitoring wind fields, and developing weather, with one or two of us just doing whatever was needed by whoever needed it. We worked the disaster scene until 3 a.m., starving and exhausted. We couldn't leave. We had bonded to the scene, to the town, and to the people. The heart does not comprehend geographic boundaries. Greensburg had become our town. Not until the last of the people were moving towards the buses that were shipping them to emergency shelters did we release ourselves from service. We were muddy, wet, smelled bad, many of us covered with bits of insulation and debris, a few of us bloodied. We never looked better. As terrible as the situation in Greensburg was, we were able to make a significant difference because those of us who were emergency responders all belonged to departments that had practiced MCIs extensively. We arrived at the scene with at least a blueprint of what had to be done and how it all had to come together because we had all taken courses in the National Incident Command System. In those first few nightmarish moments, we were able to function because we had knowledge to cling to and see us through. The value of the drills and classes we had taken was twofold. It not only taught us what we had to do, but it had taught us how to think. The question we asked ourselves from the beginning was, what is the single best thing I can do at this particular point with what I have to work with? We asked that question of ourselves countless times that night, Because of the training, the drills, and the examples, we were able to supply our own answers. As emergency responders, this is what we train for, hoping we never have to use this training. We refer to this as an MCI, or a multi-casualty incident. You train, you drill, you plan, but until you're confronted with the heart-rending human element, you cannot count yourself as prepared. The incident command system did not reveal itself as a gently cascading fountain of order and sanity, but filled in more like a computer defragmenting, a piece here and a piece there, with no predictable order or speed. It began, though, with a few people digging in and doing what they knew how to do and what they knew had to be done. Emergency responders with a knowledge of weather, working with meteorologists with a knowledge of emergency response, proved once again to be an unbeatable combination. As far as the team goes, many of us had to seek professional counseling or debriefing after the Greensburg disaster. We are unashamed to admit that symptoms exhibited were sleeplessness, short tempers, nightmares, guilt. Not uncommon, you always think you could have done more. Reclusiveness, and bursting into tears at the oddest times, like when people thanked us for what we did. Talking amongst ourselves has helped. We were lucky. We had each other to lean on, we had supportive arms at home to fall into, and we had people in emergency services who recognized our symptoms and got everyone the help they needed. At one point in the night, there had been a hazmat scare. The portion of our team assigned to search and rescue were working on a scene where a man was trapped in the basement of a power plant when they detected a pungent smell not unlike that of anhydrous ammonia. By being able to communicate with our on-site weather people via radio, we discussed surface wind fields and were able to determine where we should move people to keep them in a safe zone. Our weather people also were able to monitor existing and developing conditions, which aided in all the rescuers' ongoing safety. A few nights after Greensburg, we found ourselves assisting yet another disaster site, and our resources were used to pull people out of staging areas that were in the path of tornadic storms. We did this by means of a computer program called Mobile ThreatNet, which relays radar images to us on a GPS grid.